Hey, what's up, guys? How are y'all? Welcome back to the little podcast project. I'm glad to have you guys here. I'm Rick, and if you're listening, you probably know what this is about. It's just me chit chatting about what's going on. I just want to share with you guys, and I just appreciate you guys hanging out, listening, and just spending time and downloading and commenting, and just saying hello and spreading the podcast by word of mouth. I really appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for being here. Hope you guys have been having a wonderful weekend. I know I did. And I just want to just dive into and talk about what's been going on, what I've been playing, what I've been watching, what my thoughts on the video game news that's been going on. Not too much that's been interesting me, but there's some topics that I didn't talk about that I didn't cover last week, which I totally forgot about. And the thing is, like, I make these notes, but they're not really in order. I take notes, right? And I just put a date window. So from the Saturday of this week to the Sunday. So that's just, and then I just write all notes in there, and then I just kind of go back and start cherry picking what I find interesting. Maybe flesh it out a little bit more, just like have more ideas to talk about when I get to the subject. But sometimes, for sure, y'all know me, I could get very off the rails and talk about other things, and then forget about what I wanted to talk about originally. But this time, I made sure to go back and bring up this topic because, and this is something you guys I touched on one of the beginning episodes from this podcast where I talked about Western RPGs, Western RPGs and JRPGs, and what the difference is. And there's like a cultural change. There has been a cultural change, especially since I want to say since the rise, since when Microsoft put their hat in the ring with their consoles. Xbox really brought in a lot of these American developers to the forefront. These BioWares and Obsidian and Bethesda. I mean, yeah, they've been around, but this is when you really got to see them a lot more. Is when they were able to get a platform. And look, I'm great. I'm grateful that they're there. I like that. The more variety, the better, for sure. But it doesn't mean that some of these changes are going to start influencing the competition. And again, that's good. You don't want to be the same thing. And you guys have heard me say that before. Don't be the same thing. You have to change constantly. But I also feel that if you change too much from what made you there, from what made you, what got you there in the first place, once you change, maybe you start deviating a little bit too much, you lose your target audience, and then what do you become? Something else, right? So this is a subject that I wanted to bring up. So Final Fantasy 16. I gotta chill out. Take a deep breath, Rick. Chill. It's okay. Final Fantasy 16 has action-based combat. I'm doing the finger quote, guys, because younger gamers don't see the appeal of turn-based fights. It's according to Naoki Yoshida, producer, developer, and he's well known for the Final Fantasy 14 MMO. So I saw that, and I remember seeing some gameplay of Final Fantasy 16 during the Sony State of Play back in June. You guys remember that? I talked about it briefly. Of course, you could just go Google it, look up you could go YouTube it, you could see some gameplay there. But when you look at it, I definitely noticed it looked a lot different compared to what it was. Damn it, dude. Okay, this comparison is going to be old because it was a long time. I want to say the 20, no, even farther than that. I want to say the early 2000s when they started with. I noticed when it started becoming a change with Square Enix merger, and you saw Final Fantasy 10, 12, and 13. They were still turn-based, but you could start noticing there was a change happening in the air. And by the time 13 came around, not 13, 14, with the boys, Gladiolus and Noctis and Prompto, Ignis. You guys remember that one? I played that one only once, by the way. I'm sure when you notice when that one came around, it started becoming more press buttons, more action based, and yeah, you kind of have to make a change. And unfortunately, I wish if they make these changes and call it something else, another, just give it a different IP, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, sure, that's what you make a new IPs for, to test new things, to try new things out, to see if it works. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, well, we just scrap it and we'll go back to the drawing board and make something else. But in my opinion, when you have a title, a legacy title, even though they are all on their own story, their own mechanics, when you have something like Final Fantasy in your back pocket, yes, deviate and change some bits, but don't become something else where you almost become unrecognizable. And I find it sad. It says when he says it just because younger players don't see the appeal. You have to. Again, I don't really believe that you should alienate your base that got you there. But again, people my age, and I'm in the upper 30s, guys. Okay, don't get fooled. And maybe there's not a lot of people in my demographic that still play video games. Maybe maybe the fraction of my demographic that play games and happen to be JRPG fans. I'm sure it's very slim, and they kind of have to change it to appeal to this other audience. I don't like the fact that one of the franchises that I really enjoyed since I was a kid, since I was young, since I was in middle school, is becoming something different. I just, man, call it another IP, man. Think of something else and then do that, and then keep the Final Fantasy what the Final Fantasies are. Yeah, I did talk about how they made some changes with Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I wasn't crazy about it, but then at the same time, I'm fine with it. It didn't take away from source material, and it still it wasn't. Final Fantasy VII Remake was not a button mashing game, even though you can just kind of do your wild attacks and swings. I take that back. You can do your attacks, not wild attacks, because you still have to know what you're doing, when to dodge and block and change party members. But it was still a turn-based game, if you think about it. You still have to enter commands with your other party members to make sure things line up to exploit their weaknesses with spells, and then hit them with a stagger, and then going for attacks, and then changing party members. So it's not like you're just mashing buttons, X, 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 Y, launch them in the air, X, 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 Y, knock them down, and then do an ending move. It's not like that. I mean, there were some elements that are maybe parallel to that, but for the most part, it's Final Fantasy VII Remake. Let me catch my breath here, guys. So I'm getting worked up. Final Fantasy VII was still a turn-based RPG, even though it had some of the traces of that. It wasn't maybe a traditional one, for sure. It's not. But you still had to think about what you're doing, change to your different strategies, and then execute. So when I see, and then for sure in 14, you notice there was a difference. Mind you, guys, I played it once when it came out, so it's been a while. And then Final Fantasy 16, I don't know what they're doing. It's obviously something different. And of course, all I can do now is just spectate and give you my 2 cents on what I think about it. And that's something that I've talked about in the past before, especially about Final Fantasy VII Remake, that I don't have the finished product in my hands. So I can't really, I can only speculate and think what's going to be about, but I'm not too sure. But just hearing that the producer, Naoki Yoshida, says that they're, this is something that the younger gamers don't see the appeal about when it comes to turn-based. It's a little sad, to tell you the truth, because it's something that you like so much and it's become something different. But you know what? Who's not to say that it won't become something nice or something that I can still enjoy? Maybe I will still enjoy it, but I just miss that format of JRPG turn-based. Yeah, I have gotten it recently with Persona 5 Royal, which I appreciate, and I really do enjoy it. And I want to put a pin in Persona 5 because I want to come back to that. But yeah, just knowing about what's going on with the 16, I don't know. I mean, let me know what you guys think. Whether it's just a changing of the times. Are y'all okay with it? Do y'all even care? Does any? I mean, am I the only one that's that that feels for this? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not too sure. I do know that turn-based RPGs are kind of a thing of the. I kind of want to say they're a thing of the past because you're not seeing too much of that being released. At least not from what I've seen. At least not on the Square Enix side. For sure, not on the Square Enix side. Maybe there's other publishers that are releasing RPGs. Of course, we've seen some CRPGs like the guys who are making Larian Studios who are making the next Baldur's Gate. So you have some of that, but in that style, that the computer RPG style. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Or we have Square Enix releasing the Diofield Chronicles. That's more of your SRPG style. And then we have Atlas bringing out the Persona series to the current generation consoles. So you still have it there if you want some of that JRPG action and that style. But when it comes to Final Fantasy, I think it's just change, and change isn't necessarily bad, guys. But it's just unfortunate. And at this point, all I could do is just wait. That's all I can do, right? Is just wait. As much as I want to complain about it, but the thing is, like, I might be just the only one that I mean, I'm not the only one, but I'm sure there's a minority for people wanting to play JRPG style games from Square Enix. Who knows? So we'll see what's about. I'm still, it's gonna be on my radar for sure. I'm still gonna keep my eye out for it. Look out for what get news about it and keep my eye on it. But until then, it's just, man, it's just sad to see that that's going away, especially in the Final Fantasy namesake. If you want to call it something else, yeah, it is. We call it whatever you want, make your own IP. I mean, we've seen that with Square Enix. They've done that before, where they just try something new and it's not Final Fantasy, and sometimes it takes off, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, but anyways, guys, so I did want to talk about Atlas bringing back Persona 5, 4, and 3 to, of course, Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, the current gens, to Steam. And I, of course, you guys know me. I'm a fan. I'm excited for it. I definitely want to play it on the Switch. And I talked about it numerous times already, so you guys know why and all that good stuff. But I saw recently on Twitter and on the internet and stuff like that, where Persona 5 is it remastered? Reported? I don't know. Reported. It's coming out for PlayStation 5, and it's gonna be, and if you want it, it's gonna be full price. So at this point, I'm thinking, if I have my physical copy of Persona 5 Royal, and if it works on the PlayStation 5, that's fine. Like, what is what's the Persona 5? What is the PlayStation 5 going to bring to the game as in graphic fidelity? The game isn't intense. It isn't like a spectacle of a show. It doesn't have all this ray tracing and 60 frames per. It's just a JRPG. It's nothing fancy about it. It's all cell shaded. It's in a comic book style. The only time you're walking around is in between a couple of scenes when you're just in your room or in going from one hub to another, and then when you're in the dungeon itself. So I mean, what are people expecting with a Persona 5 port? Should it be discounted? Maybe at a price. I could see it should be discounted. It's been out for a while. It was available for, I know Persona 5 Vanilla has been available on the PlayStation Collection. If you have a PlayStation Plus subscription, I believe it's a PlayStation subscription, just the base model. And as long as you have a PS5, you could play that. So you have access to the vanilla Persona 5. Persona 5 Royal, if you want to play that, it's going to be full priced. And, I get it, guys. I did purchase the vanilla Persona 5 when it came on sale on the Sony PlayStation Store, and I purchased it for $30, and I enjoyed it very much. You definitely get there's a lot of game in that to do, and you can go back and max out your personas and play it again to max out your confidant levels with all your party members. So there's a lot to do there, and then even more so with Persona 5 Royal, where they give you a lot of these little quality of life features, where they give you an extra semester, they give you one new party member, and I want to say 2 more characters you could build your confidant level with, and maybe 1 more. I'm not too sure. I think it's 2 more. Yeah, I think it's 2 people you could max your confidant level, and 1 party member, something like that. So I don't know if people are upset about the fact that you have to pay full price to get on a PlayStation 5, but if you have a physical copy already, I wouldn't expect much of an upgrade. Maybe just increase some of the load times. But as for the performance issues, I never had any problems with Persona 5 Royal. I mean, I knew what I was getting myself into. It was just very selfish. It wasn't meant to be a graphic heavy game. So I don't know where that's coming from. Now, are the competitors doing something like are doing something great? Microsoft with their smart delivery, where if you have it from a previous gen, you get it automatically to your next one. Yeah, that's great. But I don't know if Sony's saying that if you have a digital copy, will it not work on? If you have a digital copy on the PS4, it's not going to work on PS5. I think it should work. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. So I don't understand that people getting upset about the price hike. Yeah, but if you already have a copy of the game, what does it matter? Anyways, guys. So I don't know what's going on with that, guys. Y'all let me know if maybe I'm missing something, but I played the game, and am I gonna get it again on the PlayStation 5? No, I already have a copy on the. I have a digital copy of Persona 5 Vanilla, and I have a physical copy of Persona 5 Royal for the PlayStation 4. I'm good. Now, if I do purchase another copy of the game, it would be for the Nintendo Switch. But for sure, I'm going to get Persona 4 Golden first. And after then, if I still have a good time with it and I want to continue playing more Persona on the Switch, then after, I get some... after I see some reviews, some gameplay of how Persona 5 handles on the Switch, which I don't believe it should be nothing too much that the Nintendo Switch can't handle. I mean, if you just look at the game, maybe the load times might be a little bit annoying, but beyond that, I believe the Switch should be well suited to handle Persona 5 Royal. But anyways, guys, y'all let me know if there's something I'm missing. I don't think there is. I just think this is just a talking point that people want to talk about or gripe about. I don't know. I mean, if you have a copy of the game, if you're a fan, you already have a copy. You already have access to the game. What's the PlayStation 5 going to do to the game? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing on that part. So, anyways, do you guys watch anything out of the San Diego Comic-Con? Some things, if you're in there, here's some things. I don't know. I know there were several announcements for a whole bunch of TV shows, and you could go talk to my boys OS Onslaught and OS Chameleon on their podcast at the Option Select Podcast. I know they talked about it this week, so you guys go head over there and get more information on that. But what I took away from it was some of the developers from Capcom were over there. They had they had a demo build to for Street Fighter 6 for people to play. They could test out and get their hands on it and try some more things out and get a feel for the game, which is great. I can't wait. And then they announced via Twitter, at least I saw it on the Twitter, that they were going to have the classic costumes for Ryu, Chun-Li, and Guile. They will be available. I think Jamie's gonna have like a alternate costume, and Luke will have an alternate costume. Doesn't surprise me, especially it's something they've been doing ever since Street Fighter 4, where they'll have these. Well, at least in Street Fighter 4, they have these bundles that you could purchase for the characters, so you could get different costumes. On Street Fighter 5, it was more individual based, depending on the character itself. Sometimes it had some themes for it. Sometimes it didn't. It was, some characters like Nakali had maybe 3 or 4 costumes. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have characters like Chun-Li and Cammy that just had a whole wardrobe to choose from. Whatever day of the week or whatever mood you feel, you could pick a costume for them, and that's great. I understand that having to do this, or wanting to do this, these costumes for DLC stuff, it's a good way for them to monetize, for the company to bring more revenue into the game, because honestly, they're going to sell that game at the price that it's going to release. I'm going to say it's going to be regular price at $59.99, and then I'm sure they're going to have Season 1 Character Pass for another $20, and then after that, the only way for them to monetize will be costume packs, whether they'll be in the bundles like they did in Street Fighter 4, which if they do, they go in that route. Make something for everybody, and then if you want to buy them all together, you bundle it and you just buy one price up front. Cool. Awesome. If you want to support the company, at this rate, I don't even know if you're supporting the developers. I don't know that. I have seen zero game plan or how they implement all this DLC. I don't know where it goes, because I know I've heard some people say, well, at least when you buy the DLC, you get to support the developers. Do you? I don't know. Does it go to the developers' pockets, or does it just go to the company's pockets, to the shareholders, to the board members? I don't know where that money goes. So when people say that, I just kind of roll my eyes, because unless you work behind the scenes in their financial department and you know where the money goes, I doubt it goes to developers. I mean, I don't even know how these contracts are drawn up for the developers. I don't know if they just say, hey, you're going to get a percentage. You have a salary until the game's released. I don't know if they say you have X percentage of a cut from each copy sold. I don't know if you have a percentage of DLC that you created gets sold. I don't know how it works. So I don't even know when this money comes in, if they get any at all. So when you hear people say that, I think they're just saying that so they could justify their own purchases. And if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. I don't care. That's your money. Spend it how you want. But again, if they make these DLC bundles, I hope they go on the route of Street Fighter 4, where they make one for every person, and then they kind of separate them in groups, where you have the heroes, the Shotos, the originals, the new age, the villains, and then the femme fatales, and they kind of bundle them up, and like they're each individually priced. Like these little groups, they're like $3.99. I'm just throwing out numbers here, guys. I don't know what it was. You could get them all, these little bundles, at $3.99, or you get all of them all together for $19.99. I don't know. I remember Street Fighter 4, Capcom handled it in a similar fashion like that. I could be wrong, but to my recollection, that's how they ran it. Now, in Street Fighter 5, I don't know what got into them. Maybe the esport bug bit them. Maybe the green-eyed monster of just wanting to get money, greed, bit them, or who talked them into them. But they started making costumes for, I guess, a popularity contest. Who got most played, who saw the most playtime, who was on the screen the most, or I have no idea. I don't know how they planned it. Okay. So you have these individual, they start off with battle passes, and I think that lasted for like a season or two. I don't remember. And then like eventually you had to buy it as a bundle, and then eventually they stopped, and you could buy it like individually or. Hold on, guys. Let me get a drink. I'm getting winded here. Now I gotta slow down. I gotta pace myself. You gotta pace yourself. You know, when you're just chit chatting by yourself. I'm going to no tangent here, guys. When you're chit chatting by yourself, you have to. You gotta have things ready to go so you could talk about it and explain what you're doing, but at the same time you have to like pace yourself, because you gotta remember you're just having a conversation with yourself. I mean, of course you guys are listening in. I'm having a conversation with you guys even though you're not here. So I gotta remember just chill. When I was doing a podcast with Ruben, I was able to look at him, have my conversation, read his body language to know when he's about to interject or about to start talking, and then he could read mine, and we could just bounce off each other. So the flow of the conversation changes for sure when there's one person talking. So, and guys, I'm still getting used to this. So, we'll get it. We'll get it, guys. We'll get it. But anyways, guys, what I'm talking about. Deep breath. The costumes. So with Street Fighter V, yeah, they made it where they have these individual costumes per character, and then that's when CPT, the Capcom Pro Tour, was really very popular. It was just chugging along. Just everybody was on it, was talking about it, was getting coverage. And then they introduced these Capcom Pro Tour packages where you could buy this bundle. They'll give you a stage, some special costumes for 3 random characters. It always changes. It was kind of like Ryu, it was all over the place. But there was like 2 or 3 characters that will get an extra costume. So then you got to start getting some of that, and then you'll get the stage, the costumes, and then some of the proceeds will go to the Capcom Pro Tour pot at the end of the season. And when I heard that, I was like, man, that's great. Me buying this DLC will help go to the pot to help help for the payout for the end of the tournament. Great. But then what didn't fall right for me was when they say percentages of the proceeds will go to the for the top 8 pot, for the tournament pot at the end of the Capcom Pro Tour. That just didn't sit well with me, because like, how much are they pocketing and how much are they giving out to the pot? I wish they would at least given us a number. I would have felt more comfortable if they would have said, look, 10% of it goes. I'm like, okay, that's kind of shitty, but at least they're getting something. I would have felt a little bit better if they would at least just given us a percentage. I don't know what it is, and to this day I'm like, oh, and that's why after the first one, I just said, no, I'm good. I don't want to support that business model, so I don't give in. And and again, guys, these costumes are completely optional. If you want them, great. Again, you guys know how I feel about microtransactions, even cosmetic stuff. I know some people have different views when it comes to pay to win items. Understandably, obviously, we know why. But even these cosmetic things, I feel like it's still another. I really just don't like the practice of it, and I think it's just become the norm now, where people don't even question it and just accept it and just looking forward to it, which it doesn't sit well for me. And of course, guys, if you have y'all different opinions, share with me. Tell me what y'all think about it. Are y'all cool with it or what? Because again, if you're gonna tell me, well, at least some of the proceeds go to developers, do they? Honestly, do you know that for sure? That's my concern. If you could pull up if you could pull up the legit numbers and you could tell me, yes, they get part of percentages, then I feel better. I would feel better. I really would. But until then, no, I doubt that. I really do. So I just don't want Street Fighter. Yeah. So after seeing that they have these classic skins, I wasn't surprised that they were going to do this with Street Fighter 6. And I hope it doesn't become like what it was in Street Fighter 5, where it just starts becoming these whole having a collection of costumes and just, I don't know. It almost felt like it took away from the game, because it's just, putting things behind, I want to say paywalls, because you can still get it. Well, even then, they did throttle some of the way you could get fight money halfway through Street Fighter Five, which was very unfortunate. You know, if you could get it by playing the game, I get, you know, I understand. Yeah, it could be grindy sometimes, but you're still playing the game and you can unlock it that way. I will feel better about that, but we'll see. It just, I just wasn't surprised when I heard that, and I'm glad it's there that you can get these. And again, you know what, guys? I'm not too sure if these are going to be sold content. Maybe you can unlock them by playing story mode or by playing survival mode. I will feel a lot better if that was the case. If that is the case, where you can unlock these classic costumes just by playing the game, I would feel a lot better. Okay, so I take it all back. So I don't know what's about, but it wouldn't surprise me if Capcom says, "Oh, with the launch of the game, you can also buy the season 1 character pass, which includes classic costumes for these characters and color palettes 3 through 10 or something like that." I hope I just want the game to be great, and all that money making DLC microtransaction BS is secondary. That's all I'm hoping for. Okay, guys. So, oh, my coffee got cold. Give me one second, guys. So, yeah. But as for San Diego Comic-Con, that's all really I picked up on there. I mean, the guys talked about a little bit more on their podcast, so you could probably check it out there. I mean, I saw a trailer for Dungeons and Dragons. How do you guys feel about that? I'm not the biggest Dungeons and Dragon fan. I'm not a fan at all. But it just feels like they're kind of striking while the iron's hot, because D&D is so much it's almost mainstream, kind of. Well, okay, no, it's not kind of, but it has a lot more of a it's a lot more easier to recognize D&D or to talk about D&D, I believe so, than it was 20 years ago, where it used to be just a game where a bunch of nerdy guys hang out and play with their make-believe characters. Now it's still that, but it's more generally accepted, you know, thanks to shows like Stranger Things, and then Twitch also bringing it up on, because wasn't that with that Twitch leak, one of the, I think it's called Critical Role, wasn't that like one of their most popular channels on Twitch that made like one of the most revenues up there with, you know, some of the other influencers? So I know Dungeons and Dragons is a lot more popular than it's probably ever been. So them making a movie doesn't surprise me. But do you guys remember that old D&D music from a video movie from, I want to say it was the early 2000s? You guys remember that? No? Yeah? You know, they tried doing that. So, I mean, look, I'm not the biggest fan, but I just feel if you're going to make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, I figure you're going to make it and target your hardcore audience, the people that know everything. So, and I know some people will probably be saying, well, are probably critiquing just off the trailer. I don't know, guys. I don't know. I just feel like if they're going to make just a Dungeons and Dragons just to make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, drop the D&D title and just give it a generic fantasy name and run with it. And then, but if you're going to like really go on into it and fully embrace and lean into the whole D&D franchise, like do it for your hardcore fans, the ones that know things, that recognize it, that know like, hey, that creature's not supposed to be there, or you can't cast that at this level, or you can't, you know, these creatures are only found in this sort of location. Like let, you know, cater to them, man. Let them get their spot in the light. Because if you're not, then just make a generic fantasy movie and then call it a day and then cash in. I mean, look, every year we gotta have our big movie flop. I think I want to call it this year, guys. I think this D&D movie is gonna be the flop of 2022. I'm calling it here, calling it now, guys. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong. Look, I'm wrong, but if I'm right, would you be surprised? You know. So I don't know. I saw that coming out. I saw the trailer, and I asked my wife about it, and she used to play D&D back in the day. I think she still does. She plays online. So she's excited for it. So, but in the end, at the end of the day, it's not targeting me. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't play it. But I just feel like if you're gonna make something for your fan base, make it for your fan base, the hardcore fans, the ones that really like it, the ones that really know your game in and out. Target them. Because if not, if you're just gonna make it for the average moviegoer, well, then just make an average fantasy movie and then call it a day. I'm not too sure, right? As for movies, guys, I did watch Jordan Peele's Nope. So when I first saw, I went to go see Thor: Love and Thunder, and during the trailer, the movie previews, they had Nope in there, and I kid you not, guys, that just watching the trailer, I was creeped out. So I told myself, I want to go see this movie. So I watched it Saturday, and the first half, I was just getting chills because I don't want to talk about too much about the movie because it's still gonna be early by the time this podcast comes out. It'll be a couple of weeks from release, but I don't want to talk too much about it in case people still want to see it. But I expected the movie's gonna be done, or was the what I thought was gonna be what scares me the most of it changed halfway through, and it became something else. And my feeling for the movie, I didn't like it less, but it didn't have me thinking, oh god, oh god, oh god. Like it didn't have me freaking out like it did the first half. The first half had me on edge. Once it got to the second half and I realized, okay, now it becomes something else. Like it was still cool to watch, but I didn't have that feeling that the first half gave me. And I'll talk to you guys about it later on in a couple more episodes once this gets released and it's out for a while, because I don't want to ruin it, even though it'll be a while when this one comes out. But we'll talk about it later. But I did enjoy it. It was pretty cool. I will watch his other movies. I think it was Get Out and Us, I believe. So I gotta see where they stream it, and I'm gonna watch those when I get a chance. I have been watching Stranger Things season 4. I have watched the other previous seasons. I've enjoyed those. I think the season 2 was a little weak. Season 3. I think one of them was a little weaker than the other. The first one started off pretty good. I want to say the second one kind of dipped, and then the third one redeemed itself. So I'm watching season 4, and I'm enjoying it. It's fun. There's some parts, some set of characters, when it comes to them, I'm just like, okay, hurry up. What are you doing here? Yeah, okay. But for the most part, I'm enjoying the show. And besides just what I think about the show, that's just my opinion. It varies. It'll be something else by the time when I finish the series. I'll give you more in depth about it. But what I really wanted to talk about was the fact that shows now on streaming platforms, whether it's Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, whatever streaming service. Because let's face it, guys, the cable box. Those things are dead, right? Who watches just regular TV? Maybe if you're watching a sports game from the big national organization like your NFL, MLB, NHL, anything. NBA, NBA. If you're watching some of that stuff, sure, that's probably the only reason you're watching just the cable box TV to get those games. But when it comes to the streaming services, and especially what Netflix is doing with Stranger Things, the fact that they are going beyond a episode being 22 minutes or 59 minutes, where these episodes are running anywhere between, almost an hour and a half to 2 hours, whatever they're going, as much as they need to get this episode done, whether it's, under an hour, over an hour, whatever they need, they're taking their time with an episode to flesh it out. And I'm kind of hoping that other TV shows see this and break out of the mentality of having to be under these time constraints of 22 minutes or 59 minutes. If you need an hour and 17 minutes to tell your story for that episode, take that time. Take that time. Don't draw things out. Don't smush things. I mean, you guys have probably heard this 100 times. And Game of Thrones, okay? I've read the books from what's been released. I've seen the series. I enjoy it very much. Loved it. Until you get to the last scene. Not last scene, but the last season. Did I still enjoy it? Yes. Did I enjoy it as much as the previous seasons? No. They did kind of, hurry, all right, wrap it up, B, we gotta go. They kind of did a lot of that. And understandably so. But it felt like when you have lightning on a bottle, like that show was, why would you end it that way? Talk to everybody. Talk to your cast. Talk to your crew. Tell them, look, guys, we have the story and work. We have the story. We want to wrap it up. It's going to take some time, but bear with us. Let's get this. Let's end the series right. Because they ended it in a note where, yes, I'm a fan, and I still like the package overall for what it was. But that last season did kind of leave... It kind of left some things just, man, like... The pacing was just so off compared to previous seasons, and that's just really sad that this show that was so good ended on that note. So I'm really hoping that with this, the show like Stranger Things doing its changing up the formula, the system of not having to be constrained to these old school ways of TV making, that you don't have to be constrained to 22 minutes or 59 minutes, whatever. Take your time. And I really hope that these new shows start doing that. And I'm not saying that every show has to do that way. If you have the kind of show where everything fits tight in these little section blocks, these segment blocks, I should say, of time, make it work. But don't constrain yourself. Don't have this grand story and then smush it and compartmentalize it and cut it out just to fit a certain time schedule. So I just really hope this kind of shakes things up. I've noticed a lot of people talk about the Stranger Things as for what's going on right now, but I really think part of the conversation should be on the links of these episodes, and I like that a lot. Yeah, we've seen some episodes do this whole, we'll do season 4 and part 1, season 4 part 2. We've kind of seen that before. I really started noticing it with The Walking Dead when they started doing stuff like that. They do a half season, take a 6-month break, and then do the next season. I'm like, what? Oh. It's like, I get it. You need more time to do more. You have an extended season, but you're gonna space it out that long. I'm gonna forget what's going on. Even shows like, again, going back to Stranger Things, it's been how long since the last season? 2 years. Watching that little recap did me, it barely scratched the surface on what was going on again. I was like, wait, who's this character again? Who's brothers with who? Who used to date who? Who's friends? Like, I totally forgot. I need a, like, they should have a recap and then an in-depth recap where they kind of give you not only some of the major points, but some of the subplot points and let you know, like, oh yeah, at this point, these two are together. These two are friends. These are no longer friends. These had a bond. This is how these met. Like, because it's a even though it's kind of, it's, how was I gonna say it? How can I put the words to say it? I can't think of it, guys. I can't think. But I mean, it's a fun story. I like how it's being played out, even though it's based around these middle school kids. There's still a lot of serious stuff going on. There is life and death consequences. There's things at risk in this storyline. Lives can be lost. So I like that part, but it feels like I'm missing out when I don't get the full recap because I'm like, what's going on? I've been so removed from it. But anyways, guys, I think that's what I wanted to touch on when it came to this series. The fact that they're changing the way how they're doing the show, at least when it comes to time. Anything else I want to talk about? Oh yeah, a few more things, guys. I want to cover up. I have gone back and started playing Sekiro. Shadows Die Twice. So, of course, it's gonna be my episodic plug-in for Elden Ring. I still play the game. It's fun. I completed it, and I wanted to go back. So I did tell you guys I went back, started playing Dark Souls 3 to experience it for what it was, especially after coming off of Elden Ring to see how much the difference is. And I've been up to Deep Cathedral. I've been playing it on the PlayStation 5. I got to there. I'm like, I feel good about the game. I still plan on coming back, but I was like, okay, I've spent, I don't know how many hours. I want to say maybe 8 hours, 10 hours on Dark Souls 3, maybe less, maybe 8. So I played that much on Dark Souls 3, got to Deep Cathedral. I still want to come back, but I was like, you know what, I'm in a good spot. Let me take a little break. Let me pick up Sekiro. Because Sekiro is roughly coming up on a year when I started playing it. And that was the latest game from software to be released right before Elden Ring. So I'm playing that right now. And man, there is a difference in the combat because this is all you. You are playing as one guy and one guy only, and you're not getting summons, and you're not getting assists, and you're not getting these. Yeah, you get some prosthetics, which are kind of like your secondary weapons. And they have different abilities, whether you're, it's a flamethrower, or a shuriken tosser, or a heavy axe, or poison blade. So you kind of get these little alternate weapons that cost resources to use, so you just can't spam it whenever you want. There is a limit to it, how many times you can use it. But of course, the main bread and butter of the game comes to attack and parry. You can dodge some things, but it's not as robust as other From Software games where your dodge gives you all these eye rolls, iframes. It's a little bit less. There's kind of some there, but not too much. We can abuse it on Sekiro. It's mostly about attack and parry. And I have my friend Ninja. He'll come into chat sometimes. He's like, oh, you're playing this rhythm beat game. I'm like, yeah. Because if you think about it, each enemy has their own rhythm. And you have to learn how to tap, 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 tap. Whether they go 1, delay, 1, 1, or 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Like, each enemy has its own cadence that you have to know. And there's some enemies that just go, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and then finally stop, and then it's your turn to attack. And you have to just learn parry, 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 delay, parry, parry, and then get your attack in. So you have to learn every character, and of course, you have to learn it. So there's gonna be some times where you're just gonna eat hits to the face, and then you gotta pick yourself up, respawn, and you learn it, and you get back into it. So for sure, there is at least when it comes to the fights with the bosses, there's definitely a difficulty curve. Well, okay, there's a learning curve that you have to approach it when it comes to every boss, because they're each unique, and you have to fight them a certain way. And for the most part, when it comes to Sekiro, it's almost as if they implement a rock, paper, scissors, where, you have jump, sidestep, and a counter, and of course your parry. So then there's some moves where, they're going to do a low sweep. You have to jump over it. There are some moves where they're going to do a command grab, so you have to sidestep it. There's some moves where they're going to do a thrust attack, and you have to learn how to do a counter. You can't do a regular parry. You have to do a Mikiri counter, which does a lot of posture damage. So, and it does give you a visual and audio cue when these moves are coming out. It'll have a heavy sound effect, and you'll see a red kanji appear above the enemy, but you have a split seconds to decide whether to jump, recognize it as a thrust attack, recognize it as a grab, or recognize it as a sweep attack. So you have to be on the fly, and it's not uncommon to have sometimes not only just one character on you, but maybe even 2 or 3, and you really have to plan out your route of attack and find these characters and pick them off one by one. And with that being said, there's some times where you'll have a boss fight where you have 2 bosses having to fight them at the same time. It doesn't happen all the time, but there's a couple times where that does happen. And even some of these little mini bosses where you have to fight two at the same time. And that's not, again, that's not a new thing to From Software. We've seen that before, especially if you guys have played Elden Ring. There are some times where you'll see the Godskin duo, you have to fight them at the same time. Or you'll see a pair of Crucible Knights, fight them at the same time. So it's not nothing new. From Software will throw that at you from here to there. I mean, here and then sometimes. But, you know, and Sekiro definitely continues that tradition. But going back to that game, playing it, I still feel, you know, and you know what? After playing a lot of Elden Ring and going back into Sekiro, of course, I've already played Sekiro before a year ago. So I'm coming back after playing Elden Ring. So fighting some of these bosses, I'm having a lot better success rate at downing them than I did the first time. Again, I have more experience. I know what to look out for, but I do feel like playing Elden Ring has kind of kept my senses sharp to react fast to the bosses. And so I mean that's good to know, because I could understand the frustration when you're playing a FromSoft game and you're just constantly dying to the same boss over and over and over. And guys, this is the part where I edit in, I am Melania, Blade of Makila. I know what that feels like, guys. Trust me. And you can't get that in Sekiro, much less any other FromSoft game. But when you're able to go in there and get the boss within first, second, maybe even your third attempt, it feels great. Especially, you know, especially after coming off another From Software games, because you want to know that you still got it. Some of these, I don't want to say skills, but some of these habits and traits that you learn from this other games carries over to the other titles, and it helps you, you know, continue that, you know, that style of gameplay, even though it's not always one for one. That's why I always say, or I have been saying, is that if you play one From Software game, you could probably play the other ones. There is some differences, there's some nuances, but you really should try them out, because it will help you. It will make you want to appreciate a different aspect of the game, because, you know, different From Software games, their combat really does changes on different perspective, whether it's heavy on the blocking and rolling, or the parrying, or, you know, sidestepping, or using different mechanics, or, you know, stuff like that. So I really feel like everybody should play it, and that's another reason why I wanted to go back to Sekiro, because breathe, because after just playing this, I just wanted to go back and have a good time, and I'm enjoying it. I haven't been having a blast, and this time I'm streaming it, but I've been playing it. I mean, nobody has been coming to chat and helping me out where to go, so I'm kind of going off of my memories museum of where I was before and where I need to go. So I'm a little rusty, but for the most part, I'm making progress. I've only had to look up one item, how to find the Sabimaru, the poison blade, so I could use it on the what is it, the snake people with the guns? Yeah, they're snake people with the guns, guys. So yeah, I had to look up one thing. So, but yeah, I went back to Sekiro. I am going to go back to Dark Souls 3 eventually, but right now I'm playing Sekiro, and man, that combat does feel great. I have been having a blast, and I highly suggest it, guys. If you guys get a chance to play it, especially, I mean, probably now. Oh, I gotta chill, guys. Especially now with it being the end of July, and if you already played Elden Ring, you probably got it at launch, played through it. You already maybe had your first playthrough, maybe even did your second playthrough, you know, and now you're just kind of tinkering, and maybe your interest in that game is kind of waning off. Try Sekiro, man. If you haven't played it already, try Sekiro. To me, it's still in that same vein of, you know, a From Software game where it's difficult and hard, but it's different enough that you would appreciate the challenge, and that's where I'm at right now. So I'm having a blast, and I'm just really enjoying it. Just it's a different aesthetic for sure. It's not as dark or as threatening as Elden Ring or Dark Souls 3, but there's a certain appeal to that aesthetic, and it's not bad. I do like it. So far, so good. So far, still good on Sekiro, and I can't wait, and I'll be streaming more of that. I have been playing a little bit more Guilty Gear Strive. I was playing, was it I think it was Thursday. I was playing. It was Thursday, and I was thinking I want to play a fighting game, but I don't want to play DNF Duel. Now, the game's fun, but it is just there's just some craziness off the wall. I mean, literally off the wall and off the ground. It's just okay, cool. I kind of want to play something maybe not so ham. So let's try Guilty Gear, right? And I always talked about how I never sat down with Leo Whitefang because on Street Fighter, I can play some charged characters. I have no problems with them. Charged characters do not intimidate me. But somehow, when I think about charged characters in anime games, I have this mindset of anime games are so fast. When am I going to be able to, have time to do attack and then implement charge attacks into my attack strings? Well, what I've learned, and I should experiment this instead of just speculate, is that you could charge for a lot less time in anime games than you have to do, than you have to in regular Street Fighter games. So, playing Leo Whitefang, it's not too difficult to have a charge ready to go while you're attacking. So that's been helping out. And I have been having a good time playing Leo Whitefang. He is pretty cool, even though he's a charge character. I'm getting used to that, and I am playing the game back on my arcade stick, on my Evo Panthera arcade stick. So because I was playing it on pad, because I just felt like there was just so many shortcuts and macros that I'm not gonna be able to play it, with a regular way I hold a stick. So I was playing on D-pad, and then I just thought about it. I was like, you know what, Rick? You don't have to have that many buttons. You don't need to have shortcut for everything. Yeah, maybe a shortcut for dash. That's nice to have. But for roaming cancel and burst, I mean, you just hit 3 attack buttons. You get a roaming cancel. You hit dust and attack button. You get your burst. So I mean, you already know. Just hit your 3 attack buttons on top. That's just your RC, and then similar to Street Fighter 5, when you do your V trigger, it's your heavy, where my heavy attacks would be. That could be your burst. So I mean, it's already there. You just got to implement it and make a muscle memory. So I've been doing that, and I've actually been enjoying playing the game. Going back to Guilty Gear, which I'm glad I am, because I was excited when it first came out. And mind you guys, I never really settled on a character that I really wanted to play, and that's always been my issue with Guilty Gear. There was never somebody that I wanted to play and I got familiar with. None of that. So I played the game. I liked it at first, and then I was like, okay, cool. And then I saw season 1 characters, and nobody interested me. So I was like, okay, whatever. It kind of just flew by, and then and honestly, I think it's because of Street Fighter 5. The next major event is going to be Evo is coming up, which I will be watching. But other than that, though, there hasn't been no CPT Pro Tours, Capcom Pro Tours going on. So I haven't been watching it. I haven't been keeping up. The last update's already released. I mean, playing online ranked matches is fun, but it just feels like, okay, I mean, I should focus on the way I see it is with Street Fighter 5 kind of winding down, Street Fighter 6 sometime next year. Guilty Gear is barely going to start season 2 launch sometime in the autumn, I believe. I mean, I should focus on playing Guilty Gear. And there's still, I want to say, at least 2 more seasons with that game, right? We have season 2 coming out, maybe even season 3. So I'm pretty confident this game will still continue to get support. So I should focus on this one. And I'm glad I am, because I'm having a blast and just enjoying a lot more than I did. I really think it's just changing my play style, going back to arcade stick, and then finding a character that I'm really meshing with, which is Leo Whitefang. And honestly, I didn't think it was going to be him. So, and it partly let me worked up again. And partly because after playing DNF Duel, yes, it is fun to play. Yes, it is to get big effects and just craziness. But it made me appreciate just, okay, this is what a legit legacy fighting game that has mostly balanced out mechanics, fleshed out ideas, not infinites and touch of deaths. This is what it feels like, and it feels fun. It feels fun, and I want to get into it and continue playing it. So that's probably going to be my fighting game for the next couple of months, next couple of weeks. We'll see until something comes out. Honestly, the only fighting game that I'm truly excited for, I'm just waiting to get more news on, is Street Fighter 6. So, I mean, until then, I have DNF Duel that I could play with my friends. Guilty Gear, which for the most part I could play with my friends or I could play online, have no problems. I'm sure I could play DNF online also, but I want to play something that's gonna have more to offer down the road. And I think Guilty Gear will be that. I'm not saying DNF won't, but Guilty Gear is on a good track to be that game. What else I want to talk about? Anything else? I know there was something I want to talk about. I had it locked up, ready to go. Oh yeah. And I want to wrap up this podcast, guys. One thing I have been working on. I've been working on my PC lately. So what I noticed was that when me and Ruben put this PC together, it was we didn't have some of the proper tools to get it. We kind of take some shortcuts, but we were able to get the PC together, up and running, no issues. It was great. I mean, the only thing I had to do was I had to replace an M.2, which was on my previous PC builds. It was in that one, and I carried over to a new one, and somehow it just worked for a little bit, and then it became faulty and wasn't. And then I put a new M.2, and I've had zero issues. But when I placed in the M.2, the slot was right behind my GPU, and I guys have this Goliath of a GPU. It's a 3090s Founders Edition. So that thing is a triple slot GPU. I mean, that boy is thick. Like, damn, boy, you thick. That's a thick ass boy. So I had to cover my M.2 with it, and I noticed it'll get warm. It wasn't like dangerously warm where it was critical levels, but it was up there. It was reaching, mid, 65 degrees Celsius. And I was like, I know some of these things are rated for high heat, but I've always been kind of paranoid and had the mindset of prevention is the best medicine. If I can help give it the proper protection before it gets to before it overheats, I'd rather do that. And I was lacking on some fans with my case. So, I ordered two fans. I got a heatsink for my M.2. I reapplied some thermal paste for my CPU. I got the right length screwdriver to help tighten up the screws behind my air cooler and my CPU, the heatsink and the CPU. So I was able to go in there, tighten things up, get things ready, put the fans in there, and everything went off without a hitch. It was great. It feels great. It went good. It went good. And it got me thinking, maybe I could build a PC. I mean, how difficult can it be? I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world, but it's not the hardest thing in the world. There's so much information out there. And I was thinking, guys, I want to build a PC that's not high end, not mid range, just something that I could build that's, slightly below a PlayStation 5, and I just have it. I want to build it. But I mean, like I say, I want to build it, but there's no reason for me to build it. My wife has my old PC and it's running fine. She's using it and she's having a good time running her 3D printers. So that's functioning right. And that one has a 2070 Super and a Ryzen 7. So it's not bad. It's okay. And then I have mine, which is let's see. It's an i7. I forgot. It's Intel i7 with, of course, a 3090, and it's running fine. So I don't need another CPU, but I kind of want to build one. I want to get my hands in there and learn for myself, because I've always been of the mindset of, for me to learn something, I have to see it, touch it, do it, experience it. Because you could tell me something, but it's not gonna sink in until I actually get my eyes on it, my hands on it, and see for myself what connects to what, how to manipulate this, how to put that in there, and if something's not working right, where did I go? Let me retrace my steps to find out what the problem was. So that's something I want to get into. And guys, if you have any experience building PCs, whether it's the high end, low range, mid range, whatever, let me know what you guys think. Tell me. I mean, is this a good time to get into it? Because I'm hearing that, GPUs are becoming more accessible now. The prices are more reasonable. So I kind of want to get into it. I don't know. I mean, if anything, I might just do like a low end PC build and then, I don't know, put it for sale somewhere. I don't know. I want to learn. I want to learn. And I think this could be another hobby for me. And I know what you think. Oh, another hobby. But this is something that I'm finding interest in and having fun with and I'm really enjoying. And I think it's important for people to have hobbies, to get their minds off of stuff, something they can really do and just sink in and and when they're in there doing it, they don't have to worry about, have to be at work or what's going to happen or have to pay the bills or as a form of escape, just to, for those next 2 hours while you're doing your hobby. Yeah, it's something to escape. And I'm not saying you have to escape from reality, but just get away from sometimes. And also, I believe that I don't think it'll be a bad set of skills to know how to handle your PC and have it up and running and not have to depend on somebody else to get it working for you. At least in this day and age where PCs are almost in every household. If you think they should, well, maybe not in every household, but they're a lot more common than they were a long time ago, than they were 20 years ago. It's just computers and laptops. Hell, we have a computer in our arm's length from us all the time, So now this is just the desktop version. So this is something I want to look into. And if you guys have any suggestions or tips and tricks or just thoughts on it, let me know, because I want to get into it. And I think that's about it, guys, for the most part. I know I kind of ranted and went on about some things, but this podcast, it just helps for me. Again, it's a hobby where I could just talk and rant and talk about whatever, even though I'm wrong about some things, or maybe not have the best opinions on things, or maybe I have like some really stupid takes on things. It's okay, because I get to just express myself and you guys get to listen. And if you guys are listening and are enjoying it, man, give some feedback. Say hello, say what's up, tell me what you think. And if you don't agree, that's fine too. If we agree on everything, and that wouldn't be too fun, So I think that's it for this week, guys. I don't know what I'm going to call it. I don't know what's going to come out, but I'm going to work on that. I want you guys to have a wonderful Monday. Take care of yourselves. Have a good rest of the week. Stay out of this heat. Be careful, guys. Drink lots of fluids. Eat right. Stay in the shade. Be careful. Don't exert yourselves. Listen to y'all's bodies. Don't get heat strokes. Don't hurt yourselves. Be careful. Again, thank you for listening to the podcast. I love it. I love you guys. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate it. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week. Be careful. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys. Thank you. See ya.